Hi, everybody. I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch Mentor, and welcome back to the Smart Performance Podcast. S for self-care, M for mindful growth, A for adaptive learning, R for rhythmic operations, T for a thriving community, and of course, P for performance. Again, we must have hit a note somewhere or a nerve somewhere. Our podcast is quickly gaining followers. So if you have not, come follow us along with the other 2,000 people and 10,000 downloads in the last week. So again, actionable takeaways over the next 15 minutes. Michael, thank you very much for being here today. And we're going to talk about a topic that is close to my heart because highly effective leaders don't have to do it all alone. And we're going to talk a little bit about his success story, and then we'll tell them and tell us in a second that how can you responsibly offload responsibility so you can focus on the things that matter most. Michael, thank you very much for being here this morning. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Walter. I appreciate being here, having me here. I am Michael Jacobs. I am based out of Chicago. I have been running my own business since 2002. It's an antimicrobial products business called SureShield. We make materials that don't let bacteria and other microorganisms grow, and we sell them to manufacturers around the world. And I outsource all my manufacturing, so I don't actually touch my own product. And I do this because I am leveraging the expertise of others to provide my customers with the best products available. Currently, about 90% of my business is done overseas, and that is done through my suppliers who provide me with the product, but put my name and labels on everything. We provide support, but everything, again, is outsourced. I've been doing that for over 20 years, and my customers are everyone from the Fortune 500 companies to small mom and pop manufacturers and just about everybody in between. And our products are sold in over 150 countries around the world.
It sounds like you had a success story, and of course that road was never traveled in a straight line. And I want to remind the audience here is that just because you're a leader of a small department of self or 10 or 100, it doesn't make a difference. The things that we're talking about today are actionable for all people, especially on a rapid growth trajectory. You cannot do everything yourself. So Michael, take us back to the earlier days. How did you discover that you were much better off utilizing the best, the brightest, and outsourcing versus trying to doing it yourself?
Great question. So my background, my studies were in business and entrepreneurship. So I knew that was what I was best at, what I knew the most about. I didn't know much or anything really about antimicrobials. It's very technical. It's very science forward. And when I was first presented with the opportunity to sell antimicrobials, I thought there was an opportunity there. I thought there was a market there, but I didn't think the products were quite right. They weren't solving the exact problem that customers were having, which was discoloration, staining, bad odors. Think of socks, for example. Your socks, you don't want smelly socks. Well, the way to prevent that is by putting an antimicrobial in there. But you have to have an antimicrobial that will work within certain types of textiles. You need a different antimicrobial for coatings that would go on metals. You need something different to treat plastics. And so what I realized was I could try and build those all myself. It would cost a lot of time. It would cost a lot of money. Or I could find people that already experts in this, already have the technology, and partner with them and have them provide the actual solutions. And so it shifted me from trying to figure out all out myself to evaluating what are the best solutions for my customers. And that shift was where SureShield finally took off. When we realized that there's better technology out there, we can leverage that for our customers, we could find it for our customers, and we can provide it to them directly from our suppliers. That was a much more efficient method to bring the solutions that they needed, that they craved. And by recognizing or acknowledging that I can't do everything. I'm not going to be perfect at everything. I'm not going to be the best at everything. But what I can do is connect those dots for people that need those connections. And for me, in that case, it was connecting the right antimicrobial solutions with the right manufacturers that needed them.
So let me stop you there for a second because obviously there needs to be trust before you can go take that leap. So that is something that how did you build trust? Because letting go, especially if it's your little baby, and I don't care. Again, this is something for every leader that's listening, right? This happens in your smaller department as well. How do you build trust And how do you make sure that people stay accountable on the back end, that they follow through with the things that they say? And I'm sure you've been burned along the way too.
Yeah, certainly have been burned along the way. I think trust comes from relationships. So I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to building strong relationships. Um, and but to do that, there needs to be some proof behind the work. So if someone claims that they have the best technology to do something, well, let's run a test. Let's see what happens. Let's get some data. And because antimicrobials, in my case, are regulated products, they're regulated by the EPA here in the United States and different agencies around the world, we have to have the data to prove it. And so when a customer comes to us and says, we need a antimicrobial solution for our product, whether that's a phone case or an air conditioner or a stapler, or anything in between, we have to be able to give them some data that shows that it works. But test data is one thing. Support and supplying the actual product and doing that in a timely manner is another. So we have to validate the supply chain itself. And so what we did from the beginning was create a set of standards that was sort of our guiding principle. We had documents that we created that said, okay, if you're going to be an approved supplier, you have to be able to check off each of these boxes in this order. And those boxes could be anything from the quality of the product to the timeliness of delivery, to how things are packaged. Right? We provide very specific directions to our suppliers. It needs to be packaged in a certain way with certain labels on certain sides of the packages. So documenting the process and putting systems in place it's a lot of work up front, but it makes it more efficient in the long run. Right? And so for me, to build that trust, it was, okay, if we can both agree to these set of standards and we follow through on those standards, we've built some trust. And in the process, we have to not forget there's a human element to this, right? You need to have relationships with people. You need to ask them questions. You need to get to know them a bit and prove to them that it's a two-way street, right? Like, I'm not asking my suppliers to do everything. I have to be something for them too. And for them, I provide them sales, and they don't have to pay a salesperson to go do that. I'm bringing them business. So they are incentivized to support me just as I'm incentivized to support them, because they provide the product that I can sell, and I provide them sales without them having to spend money to do so.
Yep.
So to build trust, it's a long process, right? It's never ending.
Well, it's culture based, right? And I would even take that word, relationship to the level of partnership. Right? That's really the shift takes place of, trust but verify are words that I would use in here. So when we talk about a rhythmic operation, the 5 components to that is that making sure we have the right people in the right roles. So do we have the right skills, knowledge, and abilities, and the time to do the job well? Is everybody on the same page? Right? How do we measure our performance? And I'm sure that you use some Lean Six Sigma along the way to put these robust processes that can be replicated. Then it is about that cadence of accountability, doing what you say you're going to do, and follow up with that, and then take meaningful action. So take me a little bit down that road on how you establish that. Maybe just tell a story about a product line that you use these steps in order to be able to find that rhythm that ends up providing you high quality, highly reliable products and services.
Sure. So a good example, I think, would be we worked with a major consumer electronics manufacturer to introduce tablets that were treated with an antimicrobial. And they have their own internal processes for building a new hardware product, right? So they have to make sure that the glass that they're using for the screen is to the right specs, and things are cut appropriately, and parts are delivered in a timely manner. But they also have this other end of it it has to be available for sale in their case, it was 153 countries. And we were working with a product that is regulated in many of these countries. So we had to go through a process with their legal team of, one by one, there's a list of 153 countries. We need to make sure that anything we provide them is legal to use and sell within those 153 countries. And so to do that, we had to establish a process, right? They provided a list. Even actually before they provided a list was we had to meet the right people. right? So they have their legal team, they have their product team, we have our regulatory people, we have me as the front person for representing the organization to kind of just make sure that everybody's talking to the right people at the right times. So they came to us with, here's a list of 153 countries. And we said, okay, let's break this down. We know that certain regions, like in Europe, in the EU, some of those can be grouped together because they're following the same regulations, right? There are certain countries that don't have any regulations around antimicrobials. And so breaking it down into a process that took smaller steps, made it more easy to implement, right? If we looked at it and said, okay, we got to prove 153 countries, that can be overwhelming quickly. But if we say, okay, let's break it down into the US is one section, the EU is another, the non-regulatory countries are another. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, today we're going to focus on the EU. Here's what we need to validate the regulations that the product is going to work. And it was done I think we completed the project a lot faster than than we all originally anticipated. We thought it would be a multi-month project. I think we had it done within maybe a week or two.
But that's because you had that rhythm established with the process up front, and that's what we see too often, right? People like to skip steps in the process, and then they run into a barrier. So listen, not everything is that smooth, right? So often people are resistant to change that you put in place. So talk a little bit about how do you overcome the resistance to change?
I think it's kind of a multi-pronged approach, right? The first is, as you mentioned earlier, establishing that trust, right? And to do that, you have to build this relationship and show that you are going to do what you say you're going to do. The other part is, again, you have to take it one step at a time, right? Sometimes somebody will come in mid-process and be like, okay, I don't like the way this is working, or I work a different way. We're going to do it this way. And it's different from the way you've gone down. Or maybe somebody's changed their mind along the way and they said, you know what? We don't want to make this product green anymore. We want it to be blue, right? So now you have to change things. So how do you adapt in the moment? And to me, again, it's breaking it down into smaller chunks and falling back on the systems that you've already put in place that will help keep you on track. So if you are developing a new product or you are going to market, okay, my go-to-market strategy is typically steps 1 through 6. And we're on step 3 and somebody comes in and says, you know what, we're not going after that market, we're going after a different market. Do we have to start over, or do we just go to step 2 where we decide which market to go to and then continue to follow those steps? So having a system to fall back on and identifying what those steps are, but also at the same time, maintaining those relationships, right? It's at the end of the day, it's two humans talking to each other. And if you can't trust the person on the other end, it's going to be very difficult to get through the process. And so you have to be there and be willing to listen and not just agree, but take what they say and build on it. And I haven't really come into many situations where, yes, things do fall apart, but they may fall apart because of a change in the market. Maybe COVID hits, or maybe there's some economic challenge that comes in. But generally speaking, having those systems to fall back on is what helps get through those challenging times.
So thank you for talking about, again, it is overcoming the resistance. That is the key. Trust is very, very important, and to make sure that you follow through, right? On the end of the day. Now, people work best when they feel inspired and motivated, right? And that is about rewarding, recognizing, appreciating people, and developing people itself. So talk a little bit about that as you grew your company, well beyond you. How did you keep people motivated and inspired in order to do their best work every single day?
Yeah, I think I try to be personal, right? And again, I try not to forget that we're human. And it's, yes, it's easy to acknowledge the successes, right? And at the end of a project, or when a sale is made, or somebody goes to market with our product, it's like, congratulations, you've launched it. That's expected. It's those days in between that you can really show your appreciation, and it'll help build on that relationship. And sometimes it's as simple as, how was your weekend? Sometimes it's as simple as, hey, you'd mentioned that you like football and your favorite team was X, Y, or Z. And say, oh, did you see that game last weekend? And just connecting with them on a more personal level helps build a little bit of additional trust, and also shows them that you hear them, you see them, that they feel recognized. It really is the simple stuff at the end of the day.
It is. It's genuine care, right? Is my theme of the first four responsibilities of a leader is to love those you lead, and it starts right off with getting to genuinely know the people that you lead. Interesting. I was working with a client not too long ago, and she said that she's an executive assistant to the CEO of a division, and she swears that he doesn't even know any of them. He doesn't acknowledge them. He uses them, and said that is such. I mean, it's hard to believe in today's world that that is still the case. How did a person like that get to the C-suite? Right? It is just, it's not it's not a way of, it's no way of leading, right? Getting to know the people, building that trust, and getting that engagement is the formula to high performance every day of the week. Okay, so give me two actionable takeaways from our conversation today that people can start doing as of today in order to have that positive impact and motivate and inspire the people they lead.
Absolutely. So the first one I can't recommend highly enough is to document a system today, right? It could be a simple one. It could be as simple as, this is how I create a purchase order. It could be something a little bit more complex, depending on what you're doing. It could be, this is the process we do for squashing a bug in our software. It could be something around manufacturing, any sort of system. It could be something personal too, right? This is how I'm going to address emails to begin my morning, right? Document some
work practice.
Right. Document some sort of system to make yourself just a little bit more efficient, because just the practice of writing it down will help you remember it easier and make you more efficient going forward. So I think that's one practical set. That's where I would start every day of the week, just one system. And if you can do that once a week or once a month, even if you do it once a month, you've got 12 new systems by the end of the year, right? If you can do it once a week, you've got 50 systems by the end of the year. And they don't have to be these giant documents, right? It can be a 4 bullet point type thing. So that's the first thing. I think you asked for two. So the second one is, we'll go back to relationships. Reach out to somebody, a customer, a supplier, somebody that you haven't talked to in the last couple of weeks, and just say, hey, I was thinking about you. I came across this article, or I saw this thing on TV, made me think of you, wanted to share it with you, wanted to see what you thought. The power in that is so understated, because yes, not everybody's going to respond to it. Although most people are going to be like, hey, thanks for thinking of me. I appreciate that. They're going to bank that in their memory, and it's going to come back and help you later. But sometimes they might be like, oh, I forgot about you. You know what? I appreciate that. Let's do business together. And it just takes one. And all of a sudden, just that one quick email or a quick phone call or a quick letter can lead to a lot of business.
Yeah. Yeah, that cannot be underestimated, and that personal touch makes a world of difference, right? It's not a mass email, but it's really that little knowledge, that little intel that you have collected along the way about that particular person can have such a tremendous impact itself. Listen, as somebody who's been successful in life, it's always good that other people have a mentor, somebody to look up to. Where could people find you?
People can find me at my website, incrediblyeffective.com. There I talk about how to find the best leads that will help make you more money. Also, how to build systems for your business. And please feel free to reach out there. You contact me through the website. You can also download some free resources, including my Leads That Pay document that will walk you through the process of finding the best leads. And again, that's incrediblyeffective.com.
Excellent, very good. And if you send it to me, I can certainly attach that to the news or on the podcast itself. Give us a parting thoughts.
You can do more today than you had originally planned to do. Take 1 extra minute to send a message to somebody, or 1 extra minute to document something, or 1 extra minute just to think through a challenge you had for today. It'll probably make tomorrow much easier.
That's a good thought, right? If today a little better than yesterday, and that little touch and following that process, I would reiterate that when you have that in play, you can be that much more effective. Michael, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. Some good insights, and again, congratulations on your success story, and keep
Thank you very
spreading
much.
that story. And to the audience, again, make sure action is where it happens, right? If you don't take an action, then this will be forgotten by tomorrow morning too. And again, the place to start is go to the Apple Store, download my app, the Smart Performance app under the Dutch Mentor. There you can learn how to hold yourself accountable, learn about adaptive learning and process mapping and process setting, rhythmic operations. But again, it is about your action, about your measurement, and to drive the outcomes that you seek. Nobody is going to do it for you. Nothing like that happened for Michael. It's not going to happen for me either. So thank you again for joining us today. We'll see you at the next episode. Michael, I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.